3 o'clock. I'd like to call the NACFA board meeting to order for March 16th. Pat, would you be so kind as to do a roll call? You're muted. Pat, you're muted.
Okay, now?
That's better.
Okay. Just a minute. Winchester.
Here.
Excuse me.
Yamka.
Can we also have members participating indicate the location of where you are, and just city and county is fine.
Holly, Michigan.
Gamka.
Highland, Michigan.
Cullis.
Here, Holly, Oakland County.
Scheib Snyder.
Here, Rose Township, Oakland County.
Stauffer.
Fort Myers here, Fort Myers, Florida.
Oh my. Okay. Chief Lentz.
Holly, Oakland County.
That's everybody.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I guess we could make a motion, but the minutes from our special meeting from February 24th are not in the packet.
That is correct.
It's not stated, nor are they in the packet.
Oh.
Those are distributed though, Pat.
Great, Scott.
Could someone mute that music?
They weren't my minutes. I wasn't at the meeting.
Right.
It was a closed meeting.
Right, Karen, you took the
Oh.
minutes for that?
Yep, and I didn't even think to distribute those. Yep, so I'll have to wait till next month.
In the meantime, the motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented.
That's correct, but there hasn't been a second, George.
Support.
Support. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any comments? Pat, would you take a roll call?
Cullis.
Yes.
Winchester.
Yes.
Stauffer.
Yes.
Scheib Snyder.
Yes.
Gamka.
Yes.
Motion
Okay.
carried.
Motion carries, and Karen, if you would share those for our next meeting, and we'll have 2 sets of minutes in our next packet, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Moving along, Chief, do you have a report?
Yeah, the run counts were in your packet for February. We did 65 calls, a little bit slower month finally. 53 calls in district and 12 to our neighboring departments. We had 71 EMS related calls and transported 51 of those. Response time for all the calls emergency last month was 8 minutes and 28 seconds. I want to let the board know that we have submitted all of our grants through FEMA for this year. We actually submitted 4 of them. That's the most we've ever done. We did 2 safer grants, one of which Captain Seal worked on and submitted, and that is for a recruitment and retention grant that would, it's similar to the one we got several years ago, except without the full-time position. It's mainly for help in recruiting firefighters and paying for those costs that we incur when we do recruit them for training, equipment, gear, stuff like that. There's also a length of service incentive that he wrote into the grant, that if we get it, we can start a incentive program for based on years of service and give stipends or bonuses or, you know, something again, we're looking to do to incentivize the you know, people that come on to try and keep them. The second SAFER grant was one that I did and submitted, and that was a firefighter hiring grant. We wrote for 2 full-time positions. If we get this grant, it would take care of those 2 positions for 3 years, no additional cost to the department in those 3 years. And we may be able to utilize one of those positions for a newly hired firefighter that's already on the department. So it wouldn't necessarily have to hire 2, you know, brand new people outside of what we've got already. So those are the 2 SAFER grants, and then we submitted for 2 AFG grants. One was for a new brush truck. We've been trying to do that for several years now. The brush truck we have here up at Station 1 is 1985. Although it's still working, it's a stick shift. It's old, and we've been trying to get that replaced for some time under a grant. So we submitted once again for that. And then the second AFG grant was for power cots, and those are the battery operated cots that go up and down on their own to alleviate any back injuries from the crews loading and unloading patients. So I don't know how soon we'll know anything on those. It might be 3 months from now. It might be 8 months from now. Also wanted to let everybody know that the Oakland County Emergency Operations Center has closed down officially from the COVID pandemic. Everything has been shut down. The meetings are over with. So we've got some room to breathe here now and are not so busy dealing with that stuff. So that's a good sign. We've had some not so good weather over the last week or so with everything drying up and the wind. We've had 3 brush fires in the last 5 days. One of them was last week in Rose Township off Riley Lake Road that burned 3 acres. And we had 2 more in Holly Township over the last few days. One of them was on Belford Road, which was a smaller fire. And yesterday we had one on Hauser Road, north side in Holly Township that was 10 acres. We ended up calling 4 other departments for mutual aid on that before we could get a stop on it. All 3 of those were due to people illegally burning, because I've had a burning ban out since last Wednesday. So just remind your residents to please be careful. Right now, it's the worst time of year for outdoor fires. I believe that is all I have for my report.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Scroll back up to the top here. Rose Township, do you have a report?
Rose Township approved their cleanup day. Rose Township cleanup day will be May 15th at Civic Park from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's all I have, unless Paul has something.
No.
Okay, thank you for that. Holly Township, a report?
2 things for clarification, Diane. Is your Civic Park the one next to the fire hall?
It is. Mhm.
That's okay. I just didn't know the name.
Yeah.
Secondly, Chief Lintz, those field fires or grass fires that you had, were citations issued?
Citation was issued to the one yesterday. That was a blatant disregard. The winds were 25 miles an hour. It was a vacant lot with a lot of garbage on it, which I'm going to be submitting a letter correspondence to your office, just to let you know about the condition of that particular property. There's no residential structure on it, but it's being used as a dumping ground.
Is that on Belford Road?
It's on Hauser Road,
That's the one in Hauser. Okay,
just west of Jersey.
okay. And the other two fires, we didn't issue citations. Why?
We did not. The one on Belford Road, I guess, wasn't really an illegal burn. It was, they had their outdoor pellet burning furnace with the vegetation growing up around it and overloaded it. The one in Rose Township was, I guess they were teenagers, but they were 18, that were just trying to clean up a little bit around the property and had a pit and were just burning some twigs and stuff, and not trying to not follow the rules. They just didn't realize that that we had the burning ban out. So
Okay, I just was curious, and we'll look forward to the information on Belford Road. See to it that code enforcement gets it. Other than that, from a report standpoint, Mr. Chair, the sewer project on Dixie Highway is moving forward. We're into a area with the county where we're trying to come up with some financing thoughts and so forth, but hopefully as this project moves forward, one day we can report that we'll actually have sewers up in that area. That'll have effect on the development and so forth. Other than that, we have a township board meeting this evening, so there's not much new to announce.
Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thank you. No.
Okay, perfect. And I have no citizen at large / chairman report today.
You're not even going to tell us the temperature and what you're enjoying? Come on.
Nah, I wouldn't do that to you. We have no presentations today. In unfinished business, we have an issue that we have been discussing. Mr. Laddie, would you give us the wording necessary for a motion to go to a closed session?
Sure. If the board would consider a motion to enter into a closed session to discuss two written attorney opinions, I would appreciate it.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Did someone make the motion? I didn't hear who made the motion.
I said so
George,
moved.
yeah.
Okay. I'll support.
Your support.
Yes.
A motion to go to a closed session requires a 2/3 vote of the membership of the board. It is not discussable. It is not amendable. So, Pat, would you give us a roll call, please?
Hollis,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Yamka,
Yes.
Winchester,
No.
Stauffer.
Yes.
Four
The
to-
vote passes 4 to 5, which is more than the 2/3 majority needed to go to a closed session. We will leave this Zoom meeting. I assume all of you have received the invite to the closed meeting.
I believe so.
Is it in email form?
It was an email sent to you, yes.
Was that sent by, I'm trying to locate it. Was that sent by Chief?
It would
Lynch?
be from my personal email.
Oh, from you.
Yeah, today, right, Peter?
Yes, today.
Yeah.
Do you have that, Paul?
Yes, I do. I have a
Oh.
flag.
Okay.
I'm trying to find mine.
Yeah, I saw.
I sent it to you. I sent it to you twice, Paul, just to
Yes,
make
you
sure.
did. I only flagged you once.
Yeah, there we are. Oh, wait a minute.
Mr. Laddie, you have that?
I do. So we're going to leave this meeting and join up in the next meeting.
I'm
In
trying.
the other room, and then come back to this meeting. Chief Lentz, you have that, that link too? Okay,
I don't, oh, there it is. I found mine. Okay.
okay. See you guys in a bit.
Okay.
Hey, Karen, you haven't left the first meeting.
I know I'm struggling here.
Okay.
I think I got it. Oh, yep, leave.
Meeting.
Need to move to come into open meeting.
I'll move to come back into open meeting. At the time is 5:03.
Is there support?
Support.
Pat, would you take a roll call, please?
Yeah. Scheibsnyder,
Yes.
Ellis,
Yes.
Winchester,
Yes.
Yinka,
Yes.
Stouffer,
Yes.
5-0.
The motion to come out of the closed session has passed. At this point, is there any results from that we needed to discuss further, or are there any motions that I should entertain?
I guess I'll make a
Okay.
motion to proceed as discussed in our closed session.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed as was discussed in the closed session. Is there, since it's a discussion about the closed session, I'd ask that we don't have a discussion about it. Is there any discussion despite that? Okay, Pat, would you kindly take a roll call?
Scheibsnyder,
Yes.
Yinka,
Yes.
Winchester,
No.
Ellis,
No.
Stouffer.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes to, will you read exactly what it said, Pat?
To proceed as discussed in closed session.
That motion passes, thank you. Secondly, on unfinished business, we have an item here, Articles of Incorporation update status. I'm not exactly sure what this is because we were pretty clear at the last one that since Holly Township has voted this down, this matter is now dead and we're currently working under existing bylaws. So can I get a clarification as what this is about?
I just left it on there because I didn't read anything in the minutes that it was officially requested or moved to be removed or tabled.
Are there any motions surrounding the Articles of Incorporation? Hearing none, we'll strike that one from our unfinished business going forward. New business, reviews and amendments to NACFA policy 30.01 compensation. Chief?
Your packet was a copy of the current compensation policy that we have. I had few rewrites to do to it, or that I would like to get amended for the purpose of putting the Fair Labor Standards Act, Section 7K, which is the exemption overtime compensation plan. We have this in our policy for full-time people, but it actually specifies only full-time people due to the fact that we are seeing our part-time people work a number of hours in a given month, and for the plain fact that we should just as a department have one rule that we're running under, if you will, for compensation and overtime. I just basically took the current policy and with the strikeouts that you see, just removed the words, full-time in the part 3 of the policy, and part 4, section B, again, anything that had to do with just a regular 40-hour threshold compensation plan was removed. And again, in letter C under overtime wages.
Chief, does this, are we not required to do this regardless of the policy? Don't we have to, under employment law, have to pay overtime?
It's not a question of paying overtime or not. It's a question of the different, for fire departments or public officials, police departments and fire departments in the Fair Labor Standards Act, it's called the 7K exemption. Because of the schedules that are worked by most public enforcement and fire department, they're on the long shifts and stuff. We utilize this 7K exemption because it extends the overtime benefits out to a 28-day period as opposed to a 40-hour period. So again,
So it's basically just changing the method of calculation
that is
for
correct.
when it triggers overtime.
That is correct.
Okay.
And because we were really running with 2 separate ones, which isn't really efficient, myself and Captain Seal have done some research on it, and we just feel it's better just to have the one exemption policy for the compensation for the entire department, rather as to try to pick through 2 pertaining to part-time versus full-time. It's all really the same. It's just again, it's not a huge change or anything. It's just being more efficient and just going with one policy.
And are officers salary exempt?
They're not. The only
They're
person.
not. We have no exempt employees.
No, we do not. Chief Smith, I think your microphone's on. Okay.
Turn my microphone. Turn my mic.
Any other questions about this policy for the chief? Chief, is it normal practice for the board to approve all policy changes?
Yes. Anytime we have any kind of major, if it's a spelling or grammatical edit, then no. But if there's any change in the actual verbiage, then yes.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Support from Ms. Winchester. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shibe Snyder,
Yes.
Winchester. Winchester,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Kamka,
yes,
Collis,
Yes.
Stouffer,
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you for that, Chief. Paper is so much easier than scrolling through a PDF. Under new business, we have a review of the budget draft for fiscal year 2021.
Yeah, that's actually should be 2022, now that you just read that out loud. That was my mistake. I put 21 in there. It's actually the 2022 budget.
It says 2022 on the actual document.
So has everybody on the board had a chance to look at the draft?
Yes.
You know, we talked about some of these things in past board meetings. And basically, if you look at the last page that I put the key factors in that are really what's setting the stage for the proposed budget. Does anybody have any questions on that? Again, it's stuff that we've talked about. I can go down each line item on that key factors sheet if you want to, or however you want to go about discussing it.
Yeah, can we go-
What is the, I'm trying to understand, I know you have to present the draft budget. What are we as a board trying to accomplish by reviewing it?
Well,
Just
I'm
understanding it right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to give you a first look, if you will, at what I'm proposing. Next month, we should have an actual decision made of whether it's going to be accepted to go to the 2 townships, because then we need the months of May and June to get it through the 2 townships for approval.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
we have to, as a board, approve by April.
I'm sorry, what we do as a board is just in April, as a board, we say, okay, we've looked at this, we think this is correct, and therefore we're going to submit it to the 2 townships for their approval. And then during the month of May, when they 2 townships have their meetings, they, as their each individual board, approve the budget. And then it comes back to us in June for the Knoxville June meeting to accept that and finalize it and make the motion to approve it.
Are there any questions on the budget as presented?
I'd like to go through it, have the chief go through us, just the entire budget with us.
All right, so you want me to go down each cost code then?
Yes, please.
So obviously the revenues category, you have the township contributions based on the overall budget right now. It is 920,000 per township. That would be a 12% increase. Training education revenues at 55,000. Fire cost recovery at 10,000. Medical cost recovery at 455. Again, the revenue numbers are pretty much just trend numbers that I used from previous year, or review and inspections at 20,000, interest 1,500, donations 100. Expenditures for the insurance would be 28,500 for liability, 44,000 workers' comp. My wages, 87,000. Full-time employee wages are at 455,000. Full-time overtime wages at 25,000. I guess, I mean, is there any questions as I'm doing this, or do you just want me to continue going down?
Can you give a little bit more color to the the increase in the full-time wages and the 21% increase there and the 150% increase in full-time overtime wages?
I can. So on the key factor sheet, we have proposed that relate to the full-time employee wages. One full-time position, Mr. Gamka had asked to get some numbers from me at last month's meeting when that was mentioned. So again, going to the key factors sheet for a full-time firefighter, salary and benefits included. It would actually only cost the department $46,000. The reason that it's only $46,000 is because it offsets hours that would be paid out for medical duty shifts to a part-time person. That number for a full-time position would include a starting salary benefit of right around $50,000. And the benefits equal to about 23,000 with 401 benefits, healthcare package, and the healthcare savings plan that we currently have. In addition to that cost center under the full-time wages would be the normal increase to our current 7 full-time people, just their standard, 2% salary increase that would start on July 1st as well. Any other questions on that topic? Moving down to the overtime wages category, I will hit on that as well as the 709, which is the part-time overtime wages. Again, we are seeing more of our part-time people that are picking up more shifts. We've been paying out more overtime recently as well. We have trouble filling or backfilling as well our full-time people when they take their vacation day or their sick day, or we have to backfill that with people. The overtime overall needs to go up. So again, with that cost code 700.7 and the cost code 709, there's $35,000 of overtime additional in this budget to cover those costs. We typically see on a given month when we finish the schedule for the month, roughly on average about 10 openings that need to get filled through the month. And a lot of times that is the only choice we have other than to not fill the position and not have the stations covered is to pay the overtime. We do have a process that we go through where that's a last resort, of course, but when all said and done, we either don't staff the position or we have to pay somebody their overtime wages to fill it.
Okay.
Mr. Cullis?
I guess I wanted to ask one question as I look these numbers over. Going back to 700.5 full-time employee wages, you said we create another full-time position because it'll save us money based on all the hourly that we're paying?
Well, what I said was this proposal does have one new full-time position in it, and the actual cost, budgetarily speaking, is $46,000 because that person would now cover another 2,000 hours a year that we would be paying out to a part-time person. So if you take those hours that are being covered, that we would be paying out to a part-time, it offsets the actual cost for the full-time position.
Okay, but I don't see a reduction in any of the other columns that shows that offset.
It would be under 708. There's a $37,500 reduction.
Oh, you call that duty shift medic?
Yes, sir.
Is the full-time position a medic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
At this time, do the full-time people do shifts and their actual shifts, or do they only just get extra shifts?
Can you repeat that? I didn't understand what you're asking.
So at this time, we have 8 full-time people, correct?
Yes, myself included.
Okay, do those people take on any shifts when we have openings in them and, do them during their regular business hours, or do they pick up additional time and money when they do that shift?
So the shifts can be picked up by any of the full-time people. The full-time guys that are on a platoon rotation, and that's the 4 people that are just in that ABC shift. They are only doing duty shifts. They can pick up extra shifts as well as Chief Weil or Captain Seal or Sergeant Miller that are administrative and typically work Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 or 8 to 4, they also pick up shifts all the time as well. If there's a 12-hour shift open at night or a weekend shift so yes.
Okay, and so the full-time employee that you're talking about would be covering duty shifts?
Yes,
The additional person that we're considering, okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Continuing down the personnel costs, the officer wages, those are the stipends we give to the paid or part-time officers. That no real big change to that. No change to special event pay. Again, the 708 duty shift medic, there's a cost savings there. Again, that would go to the full-time position. So that's reduced by 37,000. Duty shift basic, that increase is due to the next item I want to talk about on the key factors, which was the proposed increase of the dollar wage for paid on call. And also, and I talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, as an incentive idea, is utilizing a one wage across the board. Right now, our paid on call people, part-time people get a wage for going to what we call an all call. They get a different wage for doing a duty shift. They get yet a third different wage if they come to trainings. If they do like a special detail, or we're working out at the Ren Fest or 4-H fair or whatever like that, they get yet another wage. I think this would be a good morale booster to say when somebody comes on, depending, what you come in as a EMT or a paramedic, here is your wage. You make $19 an hour for an EMT. That's what you get paid when you show up to all call responses. That's what you're getting paid when you're working a duty shift, which is actually a couple dollars more per hour than they would make if they were just working the duty shift wage. That wage is what you would get when you come to training, and instead of getting $25 stipend to come to 2 hours of training, you're making $19 an hour for as long as that training goes.
Okay.
Continuing down, we already went over the part-time overtime pay. Again, work detail pay, there's no real change in that. Actually, there's a slight reduction. Training wages, the reason that is $10,000 more from 20 to 30,000 is again using that rule of the one wage. It's factored in there for an hourly rate now instead of a $25 stipend that we were paying out. Continuing down, we've got incident run pay. Again, that's a $5,000 increase. Same reason. They would be making that paid on call wage, which would be $1 increase if this budget is approved. So that's a $10,000 increase overall. I'm sorry, $5,000 increase overall. Social Security is just factored in with all the wages. Healthcare insurance, again, that would go from 110. Well, it's showing an overall increase of 24,500, but the new full-time position would only absorb $15,000 of that. That other 9,000 was just due to the fact that last year, or for most of the part of this current budget year, I think we only had 7 of our 8 people on the healthcare insurance. And 3 months in, we had, or 3 months ago, we had one of our full-time people that wasn't taking the healthcare insurance pick up and get on the healthcare plan. So the new amount is 135,000, and that would take care of, that's all, if all 8 people had healthcare with family members on it. Won't necessarily use that all, but it's the worst case scenario. 716.5 is our healthcare savings plan that we have for the full-time people. I am again upping that just because of the new full-time person that would be on, and with the new wages. So that was a slight increase of $3,000. 401 contribution for our full-time employees, looking again to the key factor page. I'm proposing that we increase our current 10% employer match to 12%.
Not match, right? Contribution.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say match. Employer contribution from 10 to 12%, a 2% increase. I'm finding that many of the departments that offer a retirement plan and don't offer the defined benefit plan and only offer the defined contribution plan are at that range. Continuing down, 401 contribution for paid on call employees shows an increase of 15,800, mainly due to the fact that for the first 3 months we had the SAFER grant that we still had in play for 3 months of the first part of this year that was paying for that. So that was one of the big amounts that we have to absorb for the SAFER grant running out.
Hey, Chief, a question back on the 10% grant on the 401ks. We contribute that against the base pay of the employees or against their total pay for that period?
The plan is set up right now for the gross amount of wage, gross pay that they make, not just base
inclusive
wage.
of OT.
Inclusive of OT, yes.
Okay.
Life disability full-time, it didn't really change except for $350, and that would be for, again, if we hired a new full-time person. Under the supplies category, really no changes to any of those categories in that. SAFER grant expenditures, again, we don't have that grant anymore, so there are no expenditures in that at all. I just left it in there because it was comparison to the current year. Contracted services, our dispatch contract is up. We did get a draft copy of it, and they are in the process of crossing the Ts and dotting the Is in it. When we get that final, it will be brought in front of the board, probably at the next board meeting for approval. That's a 3-year renewed contract, and that is being renewed this year. There is a $7,400 increase to that, and that is mainly due to our call volume. When they did the original contract 3 years ago, they based that on the number of calls that we had had the 3 years prior to that. Again, doing that math and that formula the same way, we are doing between 200 and 250 more calls per year than we were doing back then. So the formula stays in place. It's based on a per call of how much they charge. If you break it out, we were paying $31 per call with this current contract. When the new contract starts and gets approved, we'll be paying $32 a call. Any questions on that? Continuing down, no real changes on the rest of those items in contracted services, operating expenses. There are some changes mainly to the 851 and the debt write-off. The 851 is $8,000 less, basically because currently we were keeping our Comcast internet charges for each station that we get, which runs about $300 combined per month. I was keeping those in the information technology expenses category, and it just made more sense to put them in the building utilities category. So that's really the only reason that's decreased. And then the other big contributing factor is the debt write-off. Medical billing, again, that's kind of ratioed with the expectations of the amount of revenue. The amount of revenue is predicted to go up for cost recovery medical, so the amount of debt write-off goes hand in hand with it.
We have it going down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the cost recovery is anticipated to be a little bit less this next year than it was last year. So that went down with it. I apologize. If you go back up to the top, it was medical cost recovery is currently for this budget predicted at to get to 475,000. We did a lot of medicals this year. We had a spike in medicals. I don't know if it was COVID or what, but I don't see us doing that much next year. So, but again, if we do, we not only edit that amount, but we correspond it with the write-off. So it kind of washes itself. Debt service, that's the station payment and the fire truck payment, that didn't change. And then the purchases, last category. We usually budget $10,000 a year for 970. Last year we bought the ambulance from Independence. And we had a couple other big purchases that instead of taking out of our capital fund, we just paid for out of our operational budget. So we didn't deduct or take from our capital fund. Sorry, we're getting a call. So the $10,000 again is normally what we have in our budget year for that. Same with the equipment purchases. Capital replacement transfers, although I'd like to be at $100,000 based on the increase, I took it to 90,000. And hopefully we can have some cost savings somewhere in the year that we can make that 100,000 or more.
Hey, Chief, the column that's labeled budget fiscal year 2021, is that the original budget? Is that the amended budget? Or is that the expected total expenditure for the year?
That first column for budget fiscal year 2021 that says current, that is the last amended budget that the board did in December.
Okay, so it's not, it's still, it's an adjusted budget, but it's not necessarily an actual prediction of where we end up. It's still budgetary numbers.
Correct. That has one more amendment to do in June.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, we're 3/4 of the way through the budget, so it gets easier to trend out for the end of the year. So it's pretty tight right now.
Okay, George?
Just a question regarding the capital replacement transfers. You had a used truck that we thought was sold. They came up from Kentucky. They didn't buy it. Have we moved that truck, or do we still have that truck?
We still have that truck. We've still got it with a broker, and Chief Wiles also put it in a couple of other listings. We're still getting hits on that from time to time. We're kind of adjusting the price as we go a little bit to make sure. My goal is to get rid of that before this fiscal year ends.
Any other questions on the budget?
My only other question goes back to the revenue portion. Review and inspection services are going to go up from 2,500 to 20,000.
Well, last year we get our revenue and inspections, or our review and inspection services from two big components. One is the Renaissance Festival, and the other is no, it's Renaissance Festival. I was thinking 4-H fair, but they don't pay us to do that. That's volunteer. Yeah, we roughly make between $15,000 and $18,000 from the Renaissance Festival, from reviews and putting a fire watch person out there. So we didn't have that this year.
Did we include that in our CARES Act recovery monies?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for it, but that was the second draw that we did, and we haven't gotten paid the second draw yet. Well, I'm sorry, we didn't do it under the CARES Act. We did it under our FEMA one that we had.
Oh, okay. I haven't, just for the record, I haven't heard the details. The county is poised to get quite a chunk of change from this last congressional COVID relief that they passed. So hopefully there'll be more from that. The townships are going to be getting some individual monies, but the county's going to be getting a large amount of money, and I'm waiting to see what the parameters are going to be for dividing that up.
So overall, I really think that this is a decent budget to create some incentives for the personnel, help us get through the issue we're having with filling shifts. Also keep in mind that the final payoff for the station is 2 years away as well. So that will be $108,000 that frees up that we can start putting towards our capital replacement fund. Now, this is just the operational budget. There is the capital fund budget that we have, which is a much simpler budget. However, I just wanted to let you know I am working on that. And I know, Mr. Stauffer, you had asked at a couple meetings back if I could do a 5-year capital replacement type summary to kind of go along with that budget. I am working on that as we speak, and I will have that for you guys at the next board meeting.
Okay. Any further questions on this?
Any comments? I mean, I know it's just the first look at it, and it's going to take a little bit to digest, but any,
Yeah, I'm still trying to digest the increases in here. I think it's fantastic that we're paying attention to this and paying appropriately for the market. I love the 2% increase in the 401k portion. Just in general, I think you're doing a good job. I don't really understand all the intricacies of what's going on here, but it sounds like you're paying a lot of attention to what we pay, how we pay it, and making sure that we're competitive. So I appreciate that.
thank you.
What is the line item number for you just mentioned paying off the station?
That would be in the debt service. That's line item 950, last line on page 2.
Is that the one that says 149,749?
That's the debt service principal, and then on the next page is the second category to that, which is the interest. So when you total those two together,
Okay, I guess I was confused because you said it was 108,000.
well, the total is 165,800. That includes both our station loan and the loan that we're paying back to Holly Township for the fire truck.
Oh, okay. That helped. Thank you. I wasn't able to match the 108 with anything, so I had to question.
Do we get a balance sheet too, Chief?
Did we get a balance sheet? There
Do
wasn't.
we get a balance sheet? Because I mean, for instance, this debt service is service on the debt, not the value remaining on the books for those things. Where do we see that?
I just get it off of the state bank website.
So we don't keep track of, Paul? You're muted, Paul. You're muted, still muted.
All right,
There we go.
we get that from the accountants, they give it, I don't know why. I mean, I agree with you, but this is how they do it with municipal accounting, is they have a separate little fund that they have fixed assets and the liabilities account. And it's just a quirk of municipal accounting.
Okay.
Don't
Sorry,
ask me why.
I didn't understand your question at first, Mr. Stauffer. I thought you were asking, do we show a balance sheet in our report every month?
But no, it's just out in the business world, we have a balance sheet that shows all of our capital equipment. We can see what we have, what the values are, all those type of things. And I don't see where that is.
That's all in the auditor's report from the last fiscal year.
But those values are going down on a monthly basis as we're making principal payments.
They are. The interest is going. For instance, this last year we paid $15,000. For 2020, we paid $15,000 of interest. This year so far, we paid $6,000.
Okay, can you distribute what the equivalent of the balance sheet would be, so I can see what our total assets are and where they're sitting?
Yeah, like
Whatever the municipal version of a balance sheet is.
Yes. I can get that information.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the budget? The proposed draft budget? Okay, thank you for that. That's the last item on the agenda. We have no additional new business. I'd like to open up the floor to public comment at this point. Make sure you're unmuted if you're giving us a public comment.
Debbie Miller, unmuted.
Debbie, do you have a public comment?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, hearing none. I'd entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, although I don't believe you need a motion to adjourn, but that's your call.
Appreciate that, George. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
At 5:47.